Welcome to In the Know with Lola Knows. Today, I am excited to sit down with a visionary in the house music scene, Redux Saints, with a mission to bring melody and emotion back into the genre. Redux Saints has quickly made a name for himself with his unique blend of beautiful synth work, ethereal backdrops, and deep bass lines, all driven by a relentless passion for reinvention. And from his roots in Chicago's legendary dance clubs to performances at Ministry of Sound and Burning Man, Redux Saints has been a journey of musical evolution. As a graduate of Icon Collective and the first U.S. graduate from Toolroom Academy's masterclass, he's not just creating music, he's cultivating a community, especially in Los Angeles, where he's working and revive the downtown scene with his project Deep Tech LA. So without further ado, let's welcome Redux Saints to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So your journey into dance music began in the clubs of Chicago. Can you tell us about your early days and what influenced your sound development during that time?
Yes, so house music has always been an influence, obviously being from Chicago in the early days. But trance was also big, and we're
Mm,
talking about the late '90s into the early 2000s. That's kind of when I was running around Chicago, seeing Carol Cox every other weekend at Crowbar. It was just Chicago was nice at that time because even between there was a period of kind of like I think right before 2000, I went to see a musical production called Club Rubber in Las Vegas. After that, it seemed like Chicago caught on quickly to kind of open up some clubs that were playing like electronic dance music. Now, there were always a couple that already were, but like it became a little bit more mainstream. So, I had a very long period of my house where it was either Thursday, Friday to Sunday rolling into work, half awake type of weekends. But it was all for the love of the community. We had a great group of people that used to go, like a posse of 30 people. And we just all loved the music. It was a escape from every day, the 5-day work week. And I remember back then, a little different now because I need a little bit more sleep these days. But
mm.
I just remember like Monday, I was kind of still recovering from the weekend, but Tuesday all the way through, Thursday night to Friday, I was just thinking about what are we doing the following weekend. That's all that was on my. But I had,
Was there a specific record that what was the record? Do you remember?
well, I mean, the first one that I really started falling in love with, and not on the house side, but like they used to do the Ministry of Sound annual. And that was kind of like when Paul Oakenfold kind of did his mix on it. Uh,
Yes.
there were a couple other really good, like Judge Jules and a couple other guys that like that was really kind of a good meld of like you had some trance artists, but a lot of it was house based and
Hmm.
like you know I try to still think like I had a couple of those what was called the few I know it was called the annual, and then I'll think of the other one was, but I just remember religiously playing that CD in my car over and over and over and over again until it got scratched and when it wouldn't play. But yeah, the early influence was like, we really listened to. We went to see Tiesto, Carl Cox. We used to see all the time there, and then like all the big DJs used to cycle through Chicago, which we were lucky at that time because that wasn't happening in every major city.
What do you think about the evolution of some of these earlier people that we fell in love with? Like, I feel like their sounds have really evolved over the years, like Tiesto and like um, even Cascade when he first came out and what really was thrusted out there,
Right.
especially
Well,
the early 2000s. I love the early 2000s Cascade.
right.
That's what drew, that really was the tipping point for me.
Right. I mean, the same thing like I could say about Tiesto. I loved his
Yeah.
stuff. But I think with the time to to maintain relevancy, and to continue getting booked and playing to crowds, they evolved their sound. You had the early 2000 and then you kind of had that progressive house sound that the US created that turned into EDM.
Mm, yes.
Which when it first came out, we were like, okay, something a little harder than trance. We like it. but then it just, just my personal opinion, I just really didn't follow it. And I took a little time off from the dance scene to start my business in the like around 2008. And when I came back into it, that's kind of like when Deep House got big back into it. So I was really liking like someone like Maceo Plex. And he's another guy at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
His first stuff came out, it was
Oh
very
my God. Yes.
innovative and really kind of, you know,
Woo!
it was very meaningful music to me back then. And then, you see, as they get really big and they decide, I don't know, whatever their tastes change as they get, a little bit older, their music changes, and it might be just because they're playing for bigger crowds and that they have to appeal to more of the mass than when their early careers and they're doing it more of like kind of what their identity or who they're about.
Let me ask you something. You said your earlier days, how you used to just roll in 30 people deep into a club just because you just needed to get away and it made you feel good. That was enough reasoning right then and there. I really want that to come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the whole meaning of dance music in this whole community in the first place. You took it wasn't not only a place for, our black and queer, brothers and sisters, but it was also a place for people who felt isolated or, felt weird and, introverted. That they could just come out of their shell, even for just one night.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
how special it truly was, not even just them, but even I want that to come back.
yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, the music was the uniting factor between everyone, and it didn't care on the dance floor who you were, where you came from, or whatever. If we both had that common goal of enjoying
Yeah.
ourselves to have that love for the music, that's what it was all about. And I think like today's crowds, when you hear someone who's been around for a little bit longer than some of the newer generation, and they kind of, I don't want to say that they take that grandpa view of like it was better then than it is now.
Yeah.
It's true. It was better then. I mean, like when you
Yes.
look at you look at some of these Afro house DJs and these big, melodic techno DJs, no one's dancing. They just have their phone like sticking up like this
Oh my
recording. So,
goodness.
so I mean, the enjoyment that we were getting is like different than the reason that they're there, because I think part of it is there to let everyone know else that they were there on social media, which is
Yeah.
really just, and it could just be just a different way of how a generation views clubbing, you know?
Yeah. Even the after hours were epic. Even
Yeah,
if you got invited to an after hours. And I mean, it was just about that, really the the bond,
yeah,
the moment, waking up to the sunset, and I mean the sunrise and enjoying that, you know, time together. I want that to come back. Where there's no phones and no conversation and no socials. Like it's actually being present
yeah.
with
Right.
each other. And that's why it was so special. That's why so many people felt euphoric and really high, their own inner high from it. They didn't want the night to end. I want to bring that back.
Yeah. So,
That's
so
how it should be.
I'm naturally one of those people that when you hear like a good melody, you get like the goosebumps. I don't know, are you that type of person?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
I think natively, like that's like a part of me, like in it, and
Yes.
that's the feeling I had back then when and it wasn't just the music; it was also that you were in a group that was experiencing the same thing at the same time. That was a part of it. I think that part has been lost a little bit. I think the group of everyone filming, maybe that's the new sensation that you get, but I feel that the feeling that we had back then and under the circumstances and the variables were different.
I will have to say this, and just to say this, I had the privilege of winning your mix contest for Deep Tech LA, and I got to play at, the Clevelander for Miami Music Week. And I don't know. It was just one of the, one of those things where you're just like not thinking about it and you're like, this mix hits. Like, it is like he needs, just I'm gonna send this and just see. It just feels good. It just feels so good. And you know what? And I'm just happy that I know that energy translated into that.
100%, 100%. So it was interesting because I remember specifically because I was doing the judging, and that, one of the things we do is we really don't look at who the person is or anything,
Right.
socials or anything, and we just listen to the mix. Uh, and I think yours was probably the first or second one, like actually submitted, and it kind of set the bar where then it made it easier for me to like, to kind of say, well, like this one's not going to make the finals. So what we typically would do is
Yeah.
we pick 10 to make it to the finals, and then yours and Kaleo's was so good, we just decided like, okay, we need to have at least the both of them 10. But
That
yeah,
was an incredible experience, by the way. Just even just be there with all of you and what an epic lineup that was. It was just like just great energy all around. Everybody's about that life and about that vibe and felt good.
yeah.
It really did. It felt good.
Yeah, so those parties, you're never gonna see it like too packed. But I will tell you this one thing: when you come to a DTLA party, especially like Amsterdam or like Miami, you'll definitely be meeting a good vibe. There will be a good vibe for the party, and you'll also meet good people in the industry as well. So
Absolutely. You know what? Your music is known for blending melody, emotion, and deep bass line. So, what inspires these elements? Tell me, and how do you approach creating that duality in your tracks?
yeah, so there's kind of like a history and the story behind this. Involves many people. When I first started Redux Saints was when I was going through music production school in Los Angeles, um, and I think I had more of like the trance roots where I was kind of making more like UK progressive house, which is kind of more like kind of like trance slowed down. Um, and after I did that for my first couple releases as Redux Saints, I then you know, it was weird because I was stumbling on the internet and I found Tool Room Academy, and I was like, is this for real? Like, are they really doing like thing? Because like when I went to Icon Collective, they did a good foundation of like learning music. Like you did scales, you learned music theory, but there
Hmm.
wasn't anything specific to a genre of saying like, well, these are the elements you need to learn to create it. So I just did what came to me naturally was like, and it sounded like kind of like trance, like or progressive house. So when I went to Tool Room Academy, I would spend his name's Peter Griffith, and he like or Pete Griffith, and he would say to me during these things, he goes, "Well, we're going to be doing tech house here." He goes, "We need to have a melodic exorcism of you because it's like
What?
because the tech house back there was very stripped out. It was very like kind of like it was very groove based and like a vocal hook. So as I was becoming tech house and Redux was saying, I had to kind of switch
Hmm.
my style a bit or kind of like my feeling for it. So the way that I handled that because it kept on creeping back into my music is then I created Placebo Effect in 2018. And that was my outlet for now to go back to that music that I like to do. And I'll be honest with you, you know, love tech house. I know it's popular and stuff like that. And I'm glad it has the roots of house, but like doing that for every single track
I
is
know.
it'd be boring as shit.
I know. Oh, so let me
So,
ask you something. Okay, you said, okay, so, okay. I know artists do this. Like, you're not the first artist to do this. We have, um, you said placebo effects and Redux Saints. Like, do you really have to separate your sound? To, or do you think it would be, you really have to niche out each
right. No, I have a
identity? Like, so if I wanted to make, because I've been, you know, been kind of, doing these remixes lately, and I've been getting into like, and I ain't kidding, like some future garage and just a tinge of drum and bass and some techno in there, like in minimal deep tech. Like I'm in the process of making a minimal deep tech track right now because I've been asked by a label,
right. So
you
so
know.
it was advised to me when I was creating the brand. So DTLA was created at Tool Room Academy. I got the honor to work with Miles Shackleton for a year, runs the He's a director of marketing back then at Tool Room.
Hmm.
And we created DTLA. And then as we were building out the brand for Redux Saints, it was really advised to me is that the reason you want to stick to one genre at the
Right.
beginning, I said, is because you want to build a base of listeners or fans that can know when Redux Saints delivers a song, they know what they're getting. They know
Hmm.
what to expect. And that's how you build the initial base of fans. Now, as you can see with any type of artist who blows up,
Yeah.
you know, once you have those people following you and stuff like that, then you can kind of do whatever the hell you want,
Hmm.
like and then switch back to whatever. So that was really just kind of based on advice from like, someone that, Tool Room, that's exactly what it was, to stick with that. And if you decided to do another one, it was advised to me to create a whole nother moniker. Now, why that worked well for me was because I never envisioned that DTLA would just be one genre.
Hmm.
So, at first we were like, okay, it's only going to be tech house. But then as I kind of like threw in the melodic techno progressive house, that just kind of opened it up to kind of say like, okay, we can kind of expand the brand and the image of it to be a little bit more than just tech house. Now, when I was doing tech house, that was before it was popular in the States because in the UK, typically the sound is a couple of years ahead of like what the US was saying. So
Yeah.
I was jumping into tech house like at the right time, at the right place to do it. Now, part of my philosophy also wasn't like this is one of the things I posted online the other day was trying to see was that, you know, would I be farther along in my career if I just focused on one thing versus everything? Uh, in the grand scheme of things, I think I'll be better off because I built everything up, as my own. But, I sometimes think to myself, well, if would I be farther along if I just focused on one artist and, just continued to release with them, trying to get on better labels and such with it. So that's always a dilemma that I have like in my head. I think I made the right decision, kind of like building everything to be my brand, but that does linger in the noodle sometimes.
I'm enjoying some of this energy you're putting out though, like especially in the last couple of years, just listening to your sound like evolve, even with the whole techno house thing, you really got that on lock. Even just locking places on like the Beatport chart, track source, you name it, like you're doing it. Like you definitely are, you really hit the nail into your sound in that genre, which is getting you noticed. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I'm always still trying to keep my sound. One of the
Right.
struggles these days is like, tech house evolved from stripped back, like kind of groove based stuff. It's now kind of evolved into the John Summit, Max Styler, like
That's the truth.
yeah, and that is
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I'm just like, damn. I don't know why, but
but that sound is completely different than like where I was like the roots of like my sound. That sounds like it's moving more towards like an EDM sound,
it's true.
which I want to stay farthest
Far
away.
away from.
Farthest away.
you
Because,
got you got that Chicago in you. That's
well,
that's what it is, man. You got
here's
that
the thing.
christening and you can't as much as it tries to draw you in, you can't get sucked into it, man. You got them Chicago roots in you. It'll never let you do that.
I mean, but it's a struggle right now because it's like a lot of the demos we're getting are like, reference
Yeah.
Max Styler and like, you know, like,
How do you feel about someone like John? John Summit, I think he's really trying to kind of get a little bit of his respect, even though he's had some very harsh criticisms and things rightfully so that have come out at him, especially when it has to do with like his dealings with women in the past and drug and alcohol being an influence on that. Now he's sober, but he's also trying to take a stance politically and where he stands. Like, even how do you feel about artists at that level getting involved? I feel like, and a lot of people say there shouldn't be no politics in music. Yes, there should. Why? Because we're artists. We're here to disturb the peace. It's what we do.
yeah, my philosophy on like someone like John is like, you know, you kind of can take a step back and look in awe about like, what he's done and what he's accomplished. from that standpoint,
Absolutely.
from that
It's
stand,
incredible.
it, it's absolutely insane how he went from being a University of Illinois frat boy to like the biggest house DJ on the planet. So that I respect. Um,
But it took, let me just say this, and let's just be honest. I'm going to be honest. It took, he had bros behind him with deep pockets, including his own, helping him along the way. And a lot of that just gets you put in the position. Let's
I
just be
you know
frank. Let's
I,
just be frank. And
okay.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying a lot of people are earning their position that way, even though a lot of very talented people's voices and their things are getting drowned out because they don't have like
Yeah,
that thing. There are artists we don't even know that we'll never hear.
yeah.
Like
It's
we said, there are artists they've already existed that we will never know they existed
right,
because they wouldn't put themselves out there
right. And
and that are incredible.
I think that's like the frustrating thing of the scene right now. It's, you can look good in a Speedo or a bikini, you get
Hmm.
booked at a festival versus someone who's like, I always look at it this way. I'm almost been doing this releasing music. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but close to 10 years. And I don't think like I've had like a major record break yet. I think my stuff is done well. If it takes 10 years, 15 years,
Yeah,
will be able to say to myself, and I'll wear a fucking shirt that says dues paid. Like I know 100% that I put in the time and the effort to get there.
right.
If anyone questions it, I know I'll have a million people that said, no, that motherfucker worked his ass off to get there, because I can tell you that 100%. That's just been my mentality. Now, I think where the frustration comes here is like, I look at like guys that work in like San Diego. One of my good
Hmm.
buddies is Thomas Serrano, who works at it. And from a standpoint of technical DJ, he's one of the best guys I've ever seen. But because, he's
Hmm.
not, whatever, 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 he probably no, he does very well right now. But I'm just saying, like,
Right.
I compare to someone who's been working in the scene for like 25 years, putting in the time, done everything right, and compared to someone who like is a TikTok star, and all of a sudden they're getting booked, have no releases, have no anything, and then all of a sudden, they're booked out. So from that standpoint, it's not a hater, and it has nothing to do with
Exactly.
it has nothing to do with not understanding the game.
Right.
It's saying I respect people who put in their dues. And
Yes.
when I think of John, I don't I think he's put in his dues as well too, because it's like I remember John's early stuff, like when he would
Yeah.
stuff, uh, and it was really good tech house stuff, that like I really liked and I played all the time. And things change as you get bigger and you're playing to a bigger audience. I think wasn't it David Guetta just had like a quote that says when you start playing for 20,000 people, you can't play underground anymore or you can't be underground anymore,
Mm.
and there is
You know what though? I find that completely opposite. I feel like he kind of came overground and he's now trying to get more underground with his sound. Like he's trying to play more techno. He's trying to like, especially over movement. When I was just there at movement and stuff and saw like one of his sets. And that's what I got from him. Like he's kind of going the opposite. Like he kind of like he's at the game where he can like now he can kind of play a little bit with his audience, say, I'm gonna take you here.
I
And I respect that. And I respect the hell out of that because honestly, it's what we're supposed to do anyway. As DJs, we're the selectors. We know the good shit.
yeah. So,
We're,
so ear-
we're
yeah,
the map,
early in
huh?
his I think early in his career, he used to play, he used to do vinyl underground in Ibiza. I've seen some videos of it. So,
Oh, I'm
so
not knocking him. I'm not knocking him at all. This isn't what this is, but
I mean, I,
because
I
he's
think
one of the biggest artists right now in this electronic dance music scene, it's just that I see him kind of doing opposite. Like he's kind of here, but he's also trying to experiment now with his sound more.
he's done some stuff to like slightly sabotage, himself, where he's
Mm,
where he's done some, some production videos talking about stuff that made it look like he doesn't produce his music, or he like, him standing there
Hmm.
like on 800 drugs and like, Tomorrowland, like,
Or
it's,
he's doing very heinous things to girls.
I don't know about that, but like,
Oh, I got sent some videos and it was not good, but I'll just keep that to myself.
um, but
Lolo, no, don't play.
I'm trying to remember. So you were asking me more about like John Summit, and I thought about his rise, and like, you know, I think it was good to see how what he did, and he brought that music to the forefront. You
Yeah,
know, some people may say, "Oh, he made it mainstream," but like, so what? He made it mainstream. I think what some people need to understand is just like whatever style of music, you're just going to have different generations that listen to different styles. A good story that I had is like when I went to Icon Collective in 2015-16.
yes.
Okay, that was a time when Skrillex was God.
Oh,
So
yes.
so there were 20 kids in my class, and 18 of them were doing trap, EDM. I, I don't even know. There were two people in the class who were doing house, and like another guy was doing deep house.
Mm.
And obviously I was one of them. I was a little bit older than most of the people in that class, but what I would say to them, I'm like, guys, I'm like, house is never going to go away. I don't care whatever variation or fad you jump on or whatever. It's always going to come down to the foundation of it. It's going to be that. So the if you deviate a little bit from it, you're still like, kind of sinking in and your hooks into like the root of it. And that's what I said. I'm like, and I think about it, I laugh about it now because all of them are like, whatever. And like, and I was so right back then, not to pat myself on the back, but like, do you hear any trap anymore? Do you hear, do you, do you hear,
Yes. You
do you
know
hear?
what? Me and you became friends around that time too. But we're, I'm not kidding. Like during that time where it was real rampant, we're like, ugh, like, thank you.
So
Thank you.
the
Thank
other,
you. Thank
I
you for your service.
I think it was also like dubstep. Yeah, it's dubstep from the Skrillex side stuff. So, they were asking around the class at the beginning, like, what's your goal of learning music production? And all the kids would say was like, I wanted to play festivals. And hearing me being like a business person, I said, I just want to be able to support myself and do music full time. I mean, that for me would be the dream.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
Who
like,
wouldn't want that? But that's the other thing about just being an artist. I've been an artist. I'm an artist. That's all I tell people because, I'm very multifaceted with the visuals, with my DJing, with the production. I just tell people I'm an artist, but that's the one thing I'll never not be. That's the only thing I ever lived for
yeah,
at the end of the day. And with that, it just comes with just just going through the journey and not being so focused on the destination, you know what I mean? But being right present in it.
right. So my full-time job is I own a software consulting company. We're an IBM business partner. So I'm a solution architect where I come in and I design an application infrastructure as well as the application. And, you know, my company did very well in the early days here. And there was just like a different satisfaction I would get from like closing a big dollar deal to actually creating a music and impacting their mood
Hmm.
or elevating their mood or, saying that they enjoy my set or something like that. It was the fulfillment and satisfaction and that I was like impacting people that in that way. It was just something that kind of helped balance doing the IT work and the
I
music.
love that.
But like for me, and I tell this to everyone, is like that's like through all the ups and downs of this, why I still do it. There were many times when, just like, what am I doing? Like, but the deep down love for it, and where I'm chasing, and I'm trying to chase something that doesn't just make me feel good, makes other people feel good. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And that for me is kind of like eternal fulfillment versus like, the stuff I'm doing stuff for companies. Yeah, great, the paycheck's nice, but like it's in the end of it, it's like, I'm done with that client. I move on. Great, nice talking to you. I've been replaced with a cheaper resource. I mean, like, it's just not the same. Now the music side of stuff is like, and who knows, maybe one day I do break through and people rediscover me. I think that would be a really cool thing. Is just like you create a new fan base and be like, who the hell's this guy? He's been around for 10 years and I'm just hearing about him. That,
Yes. And then it does, it works, it happens.
yeah,
No, I meet people like that on the internet all the time, all over the world, where people are discovering who they are for the first time and out of nowhere, it just things are just happening
yeah,
for them. I just think it's just not giving up. It's just, staying true to who you are and enjoying what you're doing.
yeah. And I
Like,
think one of the toughest parts is that, because there's financials always
yeah.
loot for everyone at all the,
Yeah.
and
This isn't this is not a cheap. This isn't cheap either, what we're
no,
doing.
no. There's a lot of, I think as a musician, you have to understand there's a lot of things that you're going to energy and costs you're going to put in that you're not going to see
Yeah.
an ROI. It's just a simple fact of it. So when those times kind of bring you down, that to me is when my creativity gets killed, absolutely
Mm.
sapped. So it's after going through these cycles a couple times of trying to kind of always think about the bigger picture, right? Not don't get caught in the moment of your circumstances and to try to like, to overcome that, to continue on and focus on the big picture. That's what's really done it for me, why I've been able to remain consistent. I had a rough summer last year, just with stuff going on with me. I kind of pulled back. The minute I had the capacity and the space to jump back in it, that was like I felt like I was whole again. Really true.
So I just want to know, creatively, in your creative process and stuff, are you one of those people that just get a melody in your head, or do you get like a beat or sound in your head, and then what do you do? Or do you have something that you can record right then and there? Like for me, I know for myself, it's about like getting my tape recorder out and just doing something like vocally where I get it out. What
Yes.
about you?
So me, like a lot of my early music was based on things that I thought were funny. Like I would go out and like grab something from the Dave Chappelle show, or
Ah!
I would go out and be like, this is something that's funny, like Morgan J. Freeman, no sucker, no jive. Like there were just things I remember always, and like so I would pull that off like the internet, grab it, change it a little bit, and then sometimes build the songs around it. Now for placebo effect, there's a little bit of a different process. So when I do the tech house stuff, it's like kind of coming up with a good groove, finding it's either way. I would start with like finding a vocal hook, or starting with creating a groove and then trying to find a vocal hook over it. That's the most challenging thing about like tech house and the house world is finding something that's unique that identifies the track. But from that standpoint, a lot of times I would focus on the groove first, building out the drum patterns and the bass line, get that groove, get your head going like this, and then attempt to find like a vocal over it. And something in the that I learned in Tour Room was uh that to really establish the identity of a track is really dependent on that vocal hook. And as a vocalist, you know that with the millions of tracks that come out every year, how does anyone going to remember anything out of that million? Well, it's going to be a catchy vocal,
A catchy vocal.
Right,
Like there it's always it's like anything in music, it's the hook.
right, right.
It's
So,
the
so
hook.
on the placebo effect side, it's a little bit different. I can start with like a chord and
Yes.
build it out like from that. Or a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just find a really kind of gritty, kind of what I would call placebo effect type of bass line, and then build it around just finding a sample bass line and then like building it around that.
I
So
love that.
yeah, but the placebo effect, uh, I would say taps in a little bit more of my musical abilities than the tech house side. The tech house stuff that I think a lot of my time was spent, you know, developing ideas, finding vocal hooks, because there's the area of or the era of like where everyone went to splice, and everyone
I remember that.
and, like everyone was using the same vocal, or you'd hear it in a song.
Oh my gosh.
So now, I'll let you in a little secret. Now I can just type something into Chat GPT, record it myself, and use some AI to make it sound like I actually know how to sing. So not trying
Oh no, my God.
not trying to replace the vocalist,
Oh man, is
but the
crazy
process,
anymore.
but the process flow of finding a vocal hook, I would say the time has come down to actually finding something
Let me
because
just say this. I'm going to say this. I'm doing a lot more writing and I do a lot of spoken word and I'm going to be putting some stuff out there. I wouldn't mind if my some of my spoken word got there, but I would not mind if my voice needed to be altered in some sort of auto tune to fill like some sort of whatever.
but it's not
But
necessarily
in using my even if they didn't use my real voice, but they use my the message. You know
right.
what I mean? The message is important to me.
So like a song I just did, TR 808, that was a male vocal that we turned into like a kind of like a female vocal. Like so it's
Nice.
you can,
Okay.
and the other thing is too is like you can go out and there's the not saying I'm not promoting snagging stuff without getting cleared, but like nowadays you can go out and find a good one that like To the Top. I think that To the Top was a track uh, that was popular back in the day, but with a little tuning and a little changes to it, you're able to make it sound like it was like a cover more than actually like you're using the actual vocal itself.
What?
So there's new ways I would say to kind of like, and these are really just ways when you talk about like, nowadays you have to come up with a workflow of how do you get tracks done and out the door.
Do you remember back in the day when you used to have to book studio time in order to make all this shit happen? Studio time was like how much an hour?
Well, even that, like, so that like,
Ridiculous. And then you had to have their engineer.
yeah,
No answer for buts. It was their engineer.
yeah. I mean, I remember when I was doing the Tool Room Academy, I had a mentor in LA, and I remember going over to a studio, and we never used any of it. And he said to me, he goes, "The only reason I have this stuff is so I could charge the big bucks. So it's like we don't use it, but we have it in here, so it makes it look like this is the real deal."
Jeez.
So yeah,
Oh, okay. I need to talk about Deep Tech LA.
okay.
And okay, so you're passionate about cultivating a community of deep progressive producers in Los Angeles through that project. Can you tell us more about it, your
Yeah.
vision, and
So
how and what's the next steps for Deep Tech LA?
Yeah, so originally there's actually some history behind that. When I first started DTLA, it was part of a different label called Crafted Music out of the UK. I was an owner of it, and I had created the DTLA to kind of have my own brand and have some control of stuff was going. When we first launched that brand, it was I went to all the underground producers that I knew just in Los Angeles and said,
Mm.
"Hey, I'm putting together a compilation and I want you guys on it." So no one like really like huge. Uh, maybe the biggest guy there was JJ Flores or something like that. But it was kind of a cool thing. It was a good way for me to meet everyone and to like kind of support and cultivate some talent in the Los Angeles area. So we did a couple of compilations of just the underground. Over the time, won't get into details, but I decided to split off of Crafted and I took the DTLA brand with me, and that's when it became its own label. Uh, Deep Tech, the idea of it, I was living in downtown Los Angeles. So like we basically stole the acronym for that, DTLA. Deep Tech was really a way of saying like we're going to like the imagery or the sound of it could be deep and it could be tech was kind of like what it was
I
saying.
love that. Even when I submitted my thing, I went minimal deep tech just for this.
Yeah.
Just so because and I knew that sound was getting more, getting out there more at that time. And at that time, it wasn't as present it is now, but I was like breaking through, like even that sound right then and there. That
All right.
gave me a perfect opportunity. Again, thank you. Thank you for your listening, awesome ears. You know what I mean? Seriously, means a lot. It means a lot. I'm gonna have to submit something to Deep Tech LA though.
So the label is kind of, I would say I think we're in our sixth year now, right now. It's just, continuing to build the brand.
Sixth year?
Yeah, sixth
Six
year.
year.
So, we're continuing to build the brand.
I
Uh,
love it.
I've been able to like expand parties, in a lot of the US based cities. Like I just had one in Detroit.
I saw that.
Uh,
Congrats. I'm happy for you, man.
just played kind of in Austin or LA, and stuff like that. And it's just like the whole event throwing thing is a whole nother beast of stuff.
Oh, it's something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do a regular monthly called Dirty Disco in the Akron area. And like you, I'm a girl between two cities, Akron and Cleveland. And you're Chicago and Los Angeles. How do you
That,
do that?
well,
I mean, I'm just 45 minutes. You're a whole 3 hours on a
the,
plane. Like,
the,
I don't know. Is it plane? Like, is it out? Is it 3 hour,
it's like
3 hour,
it's about
three or four?
3.5 from west to east and east to it's over
I
4.
know it's been a minute, but my God, like, how do you, I know you could just do that, make it work, but
So
it's
first thing that helps is that like I own my own business, so like I have the freedom to travel and work wherever I want. So that's a bonus. Uh,
me too.
second thing is
You
that
got,
I have family in
yeah.
Los Angeles, so it's very easy for me to travel over there and to go see my little niece who I love so much.
Aw, that's
And
special.
I have a lot of friends. So there, and then Chicago is back. I'm back closer to my parents right now as they're getting a tad bit older, and trying to support them a little bit more. But the goal
It's
was,
hard.
yeah, the goal was like a couple of years ago was actually to immediately move back west. It just hasn't matriculated yet or developed.
Not yet, not yet.
So, that's just go. I don't know. He was even thinking about maybe even going to a new city and start like deep tech Las Vegas or something like that. I don't know if anyone from Vegas is listening to this.
You know what I do have some Las Vegas listeners, so I'm sure they will get the memo.
They have a DTLV, you know.
Yeah, DTLV sounds actually really good too. I like that.
Uh, but I mean, doing the travel, I've been doing. I used to have to travel when I lived in Los Angeles. My one of my bigger clients in the Illinois area was Caterpillar, and I used to have to fly back and forth like every other week. So very, very accustomed to doing that boring 4 hour flight.
Yeah. I think being on a plane for 4 hours is pretty intense. Close quarters and
Sometimes if you like,
sometimes,
you get a lot done if you like shut off everything else.
unless you were partying the night before and then you get on a plane and you're sleeping the whole way through, you don't give a
Yep. Been there many times.
shit. Oh, how do I know? Lolo knows. Okay, let's talk about what advice you would give to emerging producers trying to find their voice in this ever-changing landscape.
That's a great question. I recently just took on an intern um from USC to work for DTLA. And as part of like kind of I obviously he's doing some of the grunt work for me, but
Mhm.
the trade-off for him is that I'm kind of like mentoring him a little bit. So I know exactly how to answer this one. So, one of the things I go with him and I spend a lot of time is really kind of like how do you build the identity of yourself? Now you need to spend some time and really think about like who are you and what do you want people to perceive you as an artist. Now that requires some deep thought about what is unique about you and how can you tie that into music. So here's a good example. This was very interesting about Walter, who's my intern. He was a ballerina, a male ballerina, which is unique, in the dance in the DJ community. So I said, let's figure out a way, you know, that we won't develop haters to bring that into your identity. And so, through many discussions, like, well, I have no idea about that because I feel like people are going to hate on it like right away. So I said, after many conversations discussing it, we found a specific way of saying, like, the timing and the movements and the stuff with that, he's bringing that into his music production to, present his identity through his music and and his, so creating your identity comes with deciding like who you want to be, how do you want people to see you, what's the vibe that people want to get from you, like, and that's specifically coming from like your persona as well as the music that you play, you know and with that you have to build all the assets underneath you. You have to build the foundation, and that means having a SoundCloud account, having proper that, coming up with a social media schedule with that. So what I would really say, and I've also mentored students as well too, is that one of the things I think that some kids jump into this thinking that they're going to be Skrillex overnight, but they don't spend the time up front kind of trying to to build their identity as a person, because when you think about the people who like blow up, like a John Summit, he had an identity, like
Yes.
party animal. People love that. Like party animal DJ, I'll DJ 12 hours and then still go to the after hours party. That was like something that people like latched onto. Like when you look at John, like, yeah, I party with him. He looks cool. So that's the kind of things I'm trying to like teach them like this early on, because if they could develop that and have something to kind of like a foundation, you know, they would be able to kind of like it helps kind of understand your direction and then like the steps you need to take to achieve your goals. When you just jump into it and you're just like throwing tracks out there, maybe jumping
I
genres,
love I
that
love this whole conversation, what you're saying. It's so freaking true. It resonates with me because it's exactly how I needed to focus, how I wanted to present myself, what felt right, what felt natural to me coming out.
100%.
What felt 100% me, you
Right.
know? And there's just certain sounds when I connect to very naturally, almost like the ancestors just come out through my sets.
Yeah.
And it's so real. It's so spiritual. And I'm like, and
People
it
can tell.
all spelled house at the end of the day. You
Right?
know what I mean? If
People
you gonna say Lolo is house, you know what I mean? That's it at the end of the day, because that house can be disco, that house also can be tech house, that house can be Afro house, that house can be progressive house, that house can be, it's all fits in the fuel.
right?
When I
It's
played one of my first sets at TV Lounge, I did this set where I got this incredible compliment from somebody in the Detroit scene.